this training is to raise awareness. And awareness, of course, is getting to know ourselves. Awareness is about knowing, is about awakening that part of ourselves that perhaps we haven't looked at. And this is the reason why I like to start with 4 questions for us to reflect upon. And they are, number 1, what motivates my spouse or my child, coworker, partner, friend, whoever it is that we want to build that relationship with? What motivates their behavior? That's question number 1. Question number 2 is, what needs he or she is trying to meet? Because you will find out throughout this course that it's all about our needs. It's all about those hidden forces that really propelled our behavior and our actions. Number 3, what motivates my own behavior? Because then we turn around and we look at ourselves. Why do I get irritated? Why do I get frustrated? Why do I get excited? Why do I become passionate when I speak to that person? Why do I get confused? Etc., etc. And finally, what needs am I trying to meet as well? What needs, what powerful inner forces prompt my actions and my behavior? And this is all about getting to know ourselves. And remember, Socrates says, know thyself. We believe that in order to create positive, fruitful, effective, and loving relationships, step number 1 is to know ourselves. And step number 2 is to create the type of conversations and dialogue where there is win-win relationships, where there is synergy, where there is awareness, where there is understanding, where there is a desire to build something together. And that's what we're planning to do with this course. If there is a possibility that we can find out the needs of others, the hidden needs of others, so that we understand why people do what they do and why we and others behave the way that we behave and they behave. Wouldn't this be a tool to help us understand and connect with others in a more harmonious, effective, productive, and loving way? Certainly, because often what happens is, as human beings, we want our needs fulfilled. And if we don't know how to fulfill them, and if we find that others are not fulfilling it to us, we resort to ways that sometimes are unhealthy. And that's what happens with children, in teams, in families, and in society in general. If our needs are not fulfilled the way that we expect sometimes, then often we resort to unhealthy ways of getting them fulfilled. And this really is a premise that helps us to talk about a possible tool that would allow us to really look at people, look at their personalities, and then some of their needs, find out what their needs are, and how we can together, synergetically, in a harmonious, loving, productive, effective way, can help each other to fulfill those needs. Let's talk about it. So I just brought the topic of understanding others' needs and personality. What about ours? Of course, this is step number 1. It is to get to know our needs and some of the traits that makes up our personality. And this is not to put us into boxes or to label us, because that's where I have a concern, that someone will say X person is like this. And when we put people into boxes, that means that we don't even allow that person to change, to transform, to do things differently. And I'm very, very careful with that. And when I'm bringing this personality and these needs, graphics and differences and ways to look at it, is not so much to put people into boxes or to label them, but to become aware that maybe some of those belong to us. And if we desire to change them because they are not serving us any longer, then we have the ability to change it, because we bring them up front, we bring them into our perspective, we make ourselves aware of it. And it was Socrates who says, know thyself. From all the work that I've been doing for many years in my practice and leadership and communications training, we definitely understand that until we know ourselves first, we will have struggle getting to know others and creating those fulfilling relationships. So let's look at a table that is simple in a way that I only brought a number of personalities and a number of needs just to make this dialogue, this conversation, this course easy to follow. And let's look at the personalities. We begin with the party maker, that person that is always active and wants to have fun and relax and involve people. Then we have the caretaker, that person that is very sensitive, that always wants to take care of the needs of others. Let's look at the controller, the person that is active, that is practical, that is fast. And the peacemaker, that person that sometimes appears to be calm, well-balanced, easygoing. And let's go into needs, and let's begin with the need for security. And let me just say that either the personalities or the needs, no one is better than the other. This is not placed on a type of a rank. It's just needs and personalities. So security, the need for security. Then the need to be loved and to love. The need to, what is this one here? Oh, the need for relaxation and recreation, to have fun. The need for freedom. And freedom in terms of, getting the power back, making own decisions, knowing what to do, and etc. Then the need for significance, the need to be bigger than ourselves or to do something bigger than ourselves. And then the need to please God or the higher self, to have that connection with something bigger and larger than ourselves. And again, I repeat, these personalities and needs are not correlated. Like this one doesn't correlate with this one because each personality could have, or each person could have different needs. So we're going to look at it now in a sense of using a topic that is very controversial, which is the topic of money. Before I go into the actual topic of money, let's talk about needs. And needs are those hidden motivators, those hidden forces, powerful forces that make us do something, that actually, I would say that controls our behaviors. Those hidden, extra powerful activity that goes on in us when we want to do something. And let's look at a simple example. Let's say I am driving and all of a sudden I become thirsty, and that's a need. That's a physical need. What do? Right away I look for a store where I could buy a bottle of water or whatever it is that I like to drink. So my physical need, being thirsty, prompt me to stop and buy something at a store. Now, let's say I have the need to take care of my physical needs fairly soon. But on the other side, on the other hand, I am with someone, let's say my spouse. I'm with my spouse, and my spouse has a different need, a different emotional need, a need for security, for saving, for security. And she or he, in my case, he will tell me that why don't we wait for 30 minutes until we get home? So his hidden need is need for security, for saving money, to making sure that I don't waste my money, that maybe I will save X amount of dollars just by waiting. So you see what happens here? My physical need, my desire to get something fulfilled, then now gets challenged by a hidden emotional need for security, for saving. And we're going to deepen on this because when we understand that those hidden needs are sometimes the cause of many of our conflicts in life, then we begin to be an observant, and before we react and before we defend and before we attack, we stop, make a pause, and put ourselves in that other person's shoes. and at least try to understand where they're coming from. And this is one of the ways that we can create, again, more fulfilling, harmonious, effective, loving relationships. Here's one example of how a physical need is challenged by the spouse's emotional need, or emotional need for security and fear. And sometimes I call security a little bit of fear. And yes, security and fear go together. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a need that needs to be fulfilled. Now, what do we propose to do when we want to come up with a harmonious way of solving a difference in needs and personality? Well, obviously, is what is called a united effort. And as united effort, what we are proposing is that with the person that you have in the conflict, or the person that we have in the difference, to sit down and make a list of, you could even actually do make a list of the different personalities and list of different needs, and talk about them, and look at each other and say, oh, I find a strong traits here, a strong traits of you here. What are the weaknesses? What are the strengths of each of these qualities and characteristics? And how can we understand each other? How can we really get to the point of understanding our needs and helping each other, or creating this effort, this synergy to help each other in fulfilling those? It is an effort. It is an effort together, and dialogue, having the conversation, and having sometimes a difficult conversation of what we like, what we dislike, what we expect, what we don't expect, and what we require, what we need. It's important to have, and that's where the tool of dialogue is very important and very helpful. So now what? Let's look at the needs and influence on handling money. And what's interesting is that different motivations produce different behaviors. And the more aware we are about those differences, the better our relationships, of course, because we are aware, we are conscious, and we understand where the other person comes from. So let's look at the needs. For instance, the need to be loved, what it prompts us to do is to help a lot of people, because helping people makes us feel good. And when we said helping people, could be with money, with resources, with time. Let's look at the next need, the need for security. Need for security motivates someone to save for the rainy day, because really need for security is a fear that there will be not enough, there will be not something or enough in the future. And is really about, I would say there's a fear of the unknown. Let's look at the need for freedom. The need for freedom is, an example is when a husband says to a wife, please don't tell me what to do when he spends money. Because when he says that, he is really expressing his need for freedom. Let's look at the need for significance, is the motivation to help those who we believe are poor, or those who we believe don't have enough. And yes, again, helping with money, with resources, with time. Need for recreation and relaxation is investing money on and time on play, traveling, having parties, buying the things that we desire, just having fun, relaxation and time. And then finally, the need for peace with God, or to please God. And this motivates some people to give money, to donate money, to honor Him, whatever their God is. And I call it higher self, because some people talk, when it talks about in terms of God, talked about in terms of higher self. So people who invest on a lot of training for the soul, for instance, is also a need. So here you have it. Those needs and how they influence the way we handle money, and how, if we don't understand how the other person handles money, it could cause a lot of conflict.